Welcome back, folks, to another absolutely exciting episode with the Legends of Musky Fishing series.
Yep, Mr. Larry Ramsell is joining us this fine, flat, hot September day.
September, first day of fall.
Could possibly be a record high heat day today, too.
Yeah, pretty insane.
Why not? Great talking conditions.
Right, great talk.
3 days ago it was 27 degrees this time of day.
Yep, doesn't make much sense.
Well, the first thing we're going to actually do is try to attempt to catch a muskie this morning.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah, well, it's still early. Try to get a muskie in the boat, and then we can get into some more of the topic matter later on today.
Yeah, we've got some interesting stuff to talk about, for sure.
We're going to talk a little bit about genetics, muskie genetics.
It's fun stuff?
It's fun stuff,
yeah.
Yep. Dive a little deeper in, I don't know, the stocking records maybe in Wisconsin here, the differences between Leech Lake strain and Wisconsin strain. But first, we do need to get fishing a little bit. It is early, the sun's still kind of low enough, and we need to fish on the boat, and then we'll get into more of the fun topic matter.
Yeah, we don't want to open that can of worms quite yet.
Yep.
Let's go make a couple of casts.
Let the coffee do its work first.
All right.
Eat it.
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Oh, she's coming back. Oh, yeah, that was good. Little whippersnapper, but two casts, 3 casts. Gone. Larry,
Yeah.
I saw a muskie. Oh yeah, sit on me.
I didn't get to see it.
Of course, I'm not recording because my battery's dead. Well, folks, we did not manage to put a muskie in the boat again.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise.
Hey, I had to follow.
Look at these conditions and tell me why we didn't catch one.
Yeah, flat, calm, super hot in September. Indian summer generally means bad muskie fishing.
And 0 wind.
Yep, no wind either to help us, but
Muskies definitely like seasonal progression, and we're going backwards right now.
Right.
So, perfect day to do this interview that we've been waiting so long to do again with you, Larry. Thanks again for your time,
My pleasure.
effort. Much appreciated. I know the muskie world out there wants to know this, that, and the other thing about muskies.
Yep, and there's a lot of information actually about, I don't know, 3 days ago. Larry gave me a lot of paperwork that I was supposed to read for this interview, and I did, and it was some absolutely incredible stuff that, it's really not on the internet.
Not anymore, but you're going to put it back there.
Yes, so
Oh,
I'd love to see it back up.
We're going to find a home for
Yep.
it out there, absolutely.
Yep, it'll be on the Today's Angler website.
And what is this information, by the way? What is the title of this?
Well, the project was the Wisconsin Muskelands Restoration Project. We started it in 2006, I believe it was, and tried to get something done around here to get some big muskies, but didn't come to pass.
No.
Well, the great thing about now, this time in technology, we're able to get information out really easy,
Yep.
really quickly to a way larger scope of people.
That was the problem back in 2005, 2006 when you guys were doing that. You didn't have social media. No Facebooks, no Instagram.
Nope.
No YouTubers.
You had Muskie First Forum, that was basically it.
And they were protective of the DNR.
Sure.
Sure.
And yeah, the word just couldn't get out at that time, and I am so excited to for you guys to read through this. We're gonna go through it a little bit on this episode, talk a little bit about genetics, and I don't know, maybe we'll talk about kind of a theory to help muskie fishing in northern Wisconsin, even Wisconsin in a whole, in Wisconsin muskie waters. So
Talk is cheap.
talk is cheap. Doing is what we need to do.
Right. Robbie, you're still young enough.
Yep.
You can certainly, make an impact with this. But with this information you guys have compiled,
Yep.
Definitely gets your attention.
Right.
So, okay, so let's start with the debate. I don't know how long this debate has been going on, but leech or spotted muskie versus the Wisconsin barred muskie, generally speaking, right?
Barred or plain green.
Yep.
is one better than the next? Is one grow bigger, faster, longer, this, that, and the other thing? And of course, genetics is the whole topic too, but where do we start?
Well, let me kind of set the stage. I worked with Dr. Bernard Lebeau on a muskie study in Eagle Lake, Wabigoon Lake in northwestern Ontario in 1986. Subsequent to that, he came out with his doctoral thesis, and the bottom line, the gist of the whole thing was, and the scientific community has refused to accept it, is that in his opinion, based with scientific research, there are two distinct species of muskies. Last time I talked to him, he said it's basically like if you know the difference between large and smallmouth bass, once you understand the difference in the two strains or species of muskies, it's that easy to tell the difference.
Sure.
But it's actually easier than looking at them, because history tells you which one the fish is.
Geographically, or?
Well, it actually over the whole geographical original range of the muskies, but there's some qualifiers. For instance, in lakes, like a lot of the lakes around this area here, if they've always had muskies, but originally, historically, never had pike, then they're the single spawners that don't get real big. I mean, they can get up to 40 pounds, which is a heck of a nice fish anywhere, but they're not going to be the world record class fish, the genetic giants.
Just can't do it.
and those he termed allopatric. In other words, they're in a lake alone, without absence of pike.
We need to say here, too, I don't think we've mentioned it, we are sitting in basically almost downtown Hayward right now. We kind of missed that.
Yeah.
So that's where we're located.
Yes.
Not to interrupt you, but definitely wanted to clarify that.
Yep. The other side of the coin is muskies and pike having existed together for the last 10,000 years. Those are the situations where big muskies are known to exist, and where most of the big fish back in the day and today come from.
Yep.
And the reasoning from Dr. Lebeau was that because the pike spawned first, muskies had to adapt a strategy
to get their young protected.
To protect or to make enough young to survive. So what they did is they developed a multiple spawning strategy, which means they spawned twice, about 2 weeks apart, 50% the first drop, 50% the second drop, and in deeper water.
Sure, that was the one thing.
That's the big difference. Is they spawn in offshore in
shoals,
anywhere from 10 to 15 feet of water. Like in Eagle Lake, where we were doing the study, their favorite area was in 13 feet of water.
That's so cool.
Interesting. Wow. Radio tracked fish, by the way.
Yeah. And in Eagle Lake, it was mostly cabbage beds, or typical musky cabbage, the curly cabbage. In Leech Lake, where the spotted muskies, the Mississippi strain that Minnesota started with came from, they spawn in what they call chara beds.
Okay.
Chara beds.
Is that kind of like marl, or?
Well, it's like a
gravel marl.
Filaments, like a stainless steel, a Brillo pad type of weed.
Oh, the stuff that grows on the bottom?
The stuff that really smells?
It's smelly.
Well, there's some that's good and there's some that's bad.
Okay.
But that's the kind of stuff they prefer to spawn in
no kidding, did not know
Minnesota
that.
waters.
Okay.
So our original thinking on the Musky Restoration Project was either isolate some historic genetic giants from this area.
Yep.
And most of them have been wiped out by now, but back in 2006 we still had a shot at a few. Or our other alternative was to bring Mississippi River strain fish over here and stock them. Well, they went ballistic over that idea. Back in the 90s they made a pact to not mix genetics. Of course they continued to do it anyway, and they did it for 100 years before that, but then they wanted to close the barn door. So
this is the controversial part.
This is what gets really interesting. When I read through what they had written down, all the research over the years, to actually find a pure Wisconsin strain giant muskie, it's just probably impossible. They're either...
There may be a few places, like over in Vilas County, there's a place called Dairyman's. It's pretty much a private area.
Sure.
Those fish there, possibly, but I would if a guy would check the record, I wouldn't be surprised if they've been stocked from the Woodruff hatchery as well there.
Okay.
So to find a pure strain, and that was one of the things that Dr. Sloss told them they needed to do. They needed to find 5 lakes for the Spooner hatchery for northwestern Wisconsin that were pure musky lakes that hadn't been stocked, and take their eggs every year from one of the 5 different lakes on a rotating basis.
Even if it wasn't a lot of eggs, it still would have been pretty amazing.
The right ones,
right?
The right eggs.
The problem was he immediately backed the DNR into a corner because those 5 lakes don't exist.
Sure.
So how you gonna do it if they don't exist?
Right.
So that shot that theory all to heck. And one thing that I learned in meetings with the DNR and with Dr. Sloss, that he was, and I asked him this direct, I said, from what I'm hearing you say, you're basically a genetic preservationist.
Yep.
You don't care if they get big or not, you just don't want to mix up different strains. He said that's correct.
Sure.
So that pretty much set the stage for what Wisconsin circled the wagons and decided they were going to do, because all their biologists are trained by him on the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point. They all come out of the same mold and they all speak the same speak.
You might want to rewind that part and listen to that sentence one more time. That definitely hit an interesting mark there.
It's one little, you know, it's like anything really.
Yeah. So, but the problem is, like I just pointed out with the 5 lakes, they don't exist. So how are you gonna take pure stock
samples
if there are no
pure stock
to take pure stock from?
Right.
So that didn't seem to bother him. So then it was, okay, we're going to take eggs from that drainage, and put them back in the lakes in that drainage. So that little bit of mixing they could live with.
Sure. Yep.
But the other thing, Coudray, back in before 1950, was the place they took all the eggs from northwestern Wisconsin for stocking in northwestern Wisconsin, and then they developed a fishery in Bone Lake in Polk County, so that they'd have a backup if Coudray was a failure for weather or whatever reason some year. They could go to Bone Lake, which was, you know, a little further south and
easier to
still
get.
have a source. Well, what they did over the years in Bone Lake is and according to Dr. Sloss, he called the shot on this. He said, probably what you've done is create a hatchery strain of fish in Bone Lake.
Right.
And the very first part of the genetic study that he did, he proved that fact and told them, get out of Bone Lake, don't take eggs from Bone Lake anymore.
Because all you're doing is ruining.
So then he told them don't go to Coudray. Well, they couldn't find 5 lakes to take eggs from, so they ended up adding Teal Lake to the regime and the Chippewa floyds, and then the 3rd year they go to Coudray. So now they got a 3-year rotation with lakes that have already been mixed up for 100 years and 120 years now. But so there's no pure strain.
Right.
And he said, another thing that kind of bothered me, he said, you don't want to take eggs from just big fish. Now think about this.
Okay.
If you take eggs from big fish, guess what? You got genes there that you know produced a big fish.
Big fish, yes.
But he wanted to take equal number of eggs from small fish. Well, if you've got a 30-inch fish you're taking eggs from, that may be as big as that fish is ever going to get.
You have no idea.
You have no way to know what's the genetic background of that fish.
What I want to tap in on, you talking about, you know, a 20-year-old 30-inch fish, but DNR was actually stocking or getting eggs from a lake around here called Calhoun and Mud Lake, and they've been known to be 28 inches and 20 years old. Yeah. And you're mixing, you know, 20-year-old fish that are only 28 inches into, you know, good bodies of water.
Sounds like a problem.
That sounds like an issue. And
it's not a place you want your eggs coming from.
No,
for sure. And what blew us away when we started the project, if you go over to Spooner Hatchery, and I don't know if it's still there or not, but you can look down on the hatchery floor from up above, and they had pictures around of spawn taking operations. And one of these pictures is taking eggs from a 28-incher. I mean, that just told it all right there.
Right. Not good.
And in Vilas County, things were a little bit different. They had 20 lakes back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. They had 20 different lakes they were using on a rotating basis. And one thing, Art Imke, who was considered Mr. Musky from the Wisconsin DNR, his life was muskies and raising muskies. And back in those days, his problem was replacing all the muskies that were being killed. In other words, they were killing 100,000 muskies a year in Wisconsin. So his his main thrust was to
get fish back in there.
To stock enough
Right.
back to replace those fish.
Put and take, put and take.
And one thing that he did notice while they were doing this, that every once in a while, one of these 20 lakes, or maybe two of these 20 lakes, would produce much bigger offspring.
Sure.
Bigger fry, they grew bigger faster,
Yep.
did better in the hatchery, but yet the light didn't come on for him.
Sure. I mean,
He was just
Right.
basically replacing the killed fish. But if you tie it all together with what's going on today and
Right.
and stocking willy-nilly and from any size parent,
Right.
Yep.
you've
There's
got
issues.
no idea of what you're getting.
Right.
I know my mother's not exactly tall.
Right.
I'm not exactly tall.
Right.
It just kind of, I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, obviously, I'm just a fisherman. What do I know?
Yep.
Yeah.
It kind of makes sense.
Here's where we can go next.
Okay.
One of the things that we were concerned about was all this 100 years of mixing different stocks.
Yep.
So, early part of the study that Dr. Sloss and his team were doing was checking base genetics in the lakes in the northwestern Wisconsin and in the northeastern Wisconsin as well. But our big concern was coup de ray, and so one of his findings was, and he didn't tell us the whole story, and we'll get into that in a minute, but his conclusion was that even after 50 years of mixing stocks in coup de ray, it hadn't affected the base genetics of coup de ray.
Sure.
And how did they know that? Like just,
Well, because they had samples from fish way back.
Okay.
'Cause Coup de ray was one of their main study lakes from the 40s and 50s
Sure.
forward.
and how were they able to decipher, from a biological standpoint? How,
Well, they take samples from current day
Yep.
and compare them with the samples from 50 years ago.
Samples of, like,
Genetics.
the actual gene.
Yeah, the
gene.
DNA.
Okay,
The
okay.
DNA.
All right.
So that was part of the story. But anyway, when we had a new biologist come into the area here, he wanted my opinion. I said, "Are you sure you want my opinion? I'm sure your boss has told you about me." And he said, "Yeah, I really want to know." So I said, "Okay, based on what Dr. Sloss told us, 50 years of mixing stocks hadn't affected the base genetics in coup de ray, then what harm would it do to stock Mississippi River strain fish that are known to grow to 54 inches and 38 pounds in 10 years?
10 years.
Yeah.
In other words, give fishermen what they really want.
Right. A 50-inch muskie.
Fast-growing big fish, and because they're fast-growing, they eat.
Right.
They're
Right.
not like these fish that are 25 years old and make one mistake a year.
Yeah. It's hard.
I mean,
yeah.
they,
Yep.
you know, a 10-year-old fish is growing like a weed, and he's got to eat. And,
Yep.
and they're big.
You guys want that, don't you? More, longer, bigger muskies?
Yeah.
But they weren't buying it. So, but then to continue on the genetic story of coup de ray, what we learned later when one of his students did his paper is that even though they hadn't supposedly affected the base genetics in coup de ray, they had created a second tier
Okay.
fishery genetics,
Okay.
musky fishery genetics. So, in effect, it did affect it. The original genetics were still there, but also so was this
Yeah.
hodgepodge mix.
Hatchery fish.
Hatchery
Right.
fish,
We'll
yeah.
call it. Yep.
So, and coup de ray is basically, it's a waste of time to go there now, as far as I'm concerned.
Right. Right.
Because there's just
A mutt.
there's nothing there.
I recall not so many years ago, I mean, it's been a while now, but the fact there was some pretty good sized fish being caught out of there. I mean, I'm talking,
And there's still some giants
Yeah,
in there, and
yeah.
coup de ray is one of the places that we suggested they capture these genetic
Sure.
giants and isolate them in a hatchery pond someplace,
sure.
Yep.
and use them every year to take eggs. Well, Dr. Sloss wasn't having any part of that.
Right.
He said you needed a diversity of sizes and gene pools, and
Right.
he basically put the kibosh to anything that we wanted done.
And what year was that? You're still talking 2005 when you guys were doing this?
Well, 2006,
Okay.
2007.
Okay,
yeah.
right on.
But so today, what's this? 13 years later, 14 years later,
Yep.
we still got nothing.
Right. No progress in that
No
department.
progress, yeah.
Yep.
And it's even getting tougher, to my experience, in the Hayward area lakes
Yeah.
to catch a muskie, period, regardless of size.
Right. Right.
Yeah, you
I just
spent all summer here. You
Yep.
know what I'm talking about.
Yep. I just moved
Yeah,
up
there's
here.
still some fish
Right,
here, and there's
right.
still some nice fish here.
Yep. It's still
There
possible.
there are no world record fish here.
No.
The
We can say that pretty certainly.
The fish from the 40s, 39 through 49, that supposedly were caught here are all bogus, BS.
Yep.
And I can prove it. It's been proven.
Right.
It's been proven scientifically.
Yep. Still big fish, but just not there.
Hayward claims to be the home of 5 world record muskies. Well, maybe one in 1916.
Yeah.
Which was a 50-pound fish from Chief Lake, which was then not part of the floyds, which is now part of the floyds. So that may be the only legitimate world record that Hayward has claimed to, as far as I'm concerned.
That happened, yeah.
So.
Interesting facts, folks.
Yeah.
Interesting facts.
You know, I live in Hayward. I'll probably die in Hayward.
Yep.
But I tell it like it is.
Right.
I go
elsewhere
to catch big muskies.
Yep.
I have been for 25 years now.
Yep.
But if you want to fish some of the most beautiful, exceptional,
aesthetically
bodies of water,
yeah. I mean, right now with all the color coming on, it's spectacular.
Yep, it's pretty awesome. But now let's picture this. Let's just kind of go into the future and let's think about it.
What do we want?
Could you imagine spotted muskies in some of these waters? Not all of them. Doesn't have to be all of them. Just to help out
the bigger
sampling.
Ones.
Right. Yes. Just a scattering of big 55+ inch muskies.
And there's a couple of lakes that are basically landlocked that would be conducive
be
to putting them in. They can't
swim away.
Yep. Just said, well, you guys will put them in your live well and take them someplace else, which was just an excuse.
Right.
Sure.
But that's not really, that's a couple of fish we're talking about.
You're not going to create a fishery in another lake by stocking 2 or 3 from a lake that's got them in. It's just, that's ludicrous.
It's implausible, yeah, not possible.
One body of water that has been one of the case studies for transporting leech strain spotted fish to a Wisconsin water is our home waters, Robbie, of Madison, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Those fish have been in there 14 years now. And
53 1/4. We just posted a video about it.
Yeah. That fish James caught. There's no doubt that was a leech strain fish.
Yeah.
Yep.
Beautiful animal. That could be legit 40-pounder this fall.
Yeah.
Think about it. That's in Madison. We get 40-pound class fish in there now. In 14 years.
And here's another thing to think about. We were talking about the Mississippi strain fish being fast growing.
Yep.
Eat so you can catch them once in a while.
Right.
One of the first lakes that they brought some leech lake fish into Wisconsin was a lake in
Listen real close.
northwestern Wisconsin. 700-acre lake. A lot of it was shallow sand, non-fish water.
Yep.
It was a lake that had a stunted population of northern pike.
Okay.
In other words, loaded with hammer-handled northerns.
Yep.
And they stocked muskies in there, and they closed it to fishing for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
10 years? I did not realize that.
10 years.
Wow.
And when they opened it up, the first year they opened it up, there were a considerable number of 50+ inch muskies caught. The biggest one that I know about was a 54-inch, 38-pounder, 10 years old.
10 years.
Wow. Spotted.
10-year-old fish in these waters where we're sitting right now would probably be 34 inches.
Right. It's just simple math.
That's the difference. Maybe we're not mixing genetics, but we're not making any fishery either.
Right.
Yeah, in quality fisheries are, in the long run, that's
dollars to tourism.
That's dollars to the state. Imagine, go back to what my deal was. Yep. Fishing Mille Lacs Lake those years from 2004, and onward. Mm-hmm. Those were the glory days of muskie stocking ever, as far as the most successful run of spotted fish stockings in a lake that had very little muskie.
Right. And an interesting sidebar to Mille Lacs, some of the early giants that were caught out of there were Wisconsin strain fish.
Yes, my personal best.
But they weren't Wisconsin DNR Wisconsin strain fish.
Yeah.
They came from Caleb Fish Farm in Dorchester, Wisconsin. He had a 57-inch female that he took eggs from every year, and that's the way eggs that he sold. That's fry that he sold, the fingerlings that he sold, that were stocked in considerable number of lakes in northwestern Wisconsin, and that gave rise to this area can put out big fish now and then. Well, if you got the right genetics,
it worked.
So one of the babies of that particular fish is my personal best muskie, most likely a 55.5 by 27.5 inch Scotty.
Insane.
That I caught. That was like 2006, I think.
Yeah.
Starting to lose it now, but
and to go back to the original genetic giants of the northwestern Wisconsin area, of course, muskies, a lot of people don't realize, are a river fish.
Yes.
years and years ago, the Chippewa River was the main feeder for this area.
Yep.
And it had a lot of big fish in it. In 1938 to 1942, they had a hatchery at the Winter Dam.
Sure.
On the Chippewa floyds, right where the East Fork and the West Fork of the Chippewa come together to make the main Chippewa River.
Yep.
And they raised a lot of big fish out of there, and some of Caleb's broodstock, possibly that 57-incher, came from those. And what they did, they kept just the big fish that they netted below the dam, and moved them up over the hill to a pond to ripen.
I like that pond.
To ripen.
And then took the eggs from them and then put them back in the river.
Right.
So they had genes from big fish.
Yep.
And those fish went to Mille Lacs Lake. So
some of them eventually.
Oh yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But they also went to areas in you know, to lakes in this area as well, and that's why there used to be a lot more bigger fish caught than now. Plus the fact that, you know, 100 years ago, or not quite 100, back in the 1940s, when Chippewa floyds became of age, so to speak.
Right.
The only two legitimate 50-pound fish that's ever come out of the Chippewa floyds were caught in 1942.
So, folks, the world record muskie is not a world record muskie.
No, it's a big muskie.
Yeah.
But it wasn't taken legally, and it wasn't as big as they said it was.
Right.
Taxidermists made it look bigger. But from 1950 on, you can count the number of 40-pounders, not even no 50s.
Right.
The number of 40-pounders out of the Chippewa floyds on 2 hands.
Sure. Sure. 1 inch.
That's not what we want.
Right. Right.
That's not what trophy musky fishermen look for. That's why right now this year lakes in Wisconsin are getting pounded to death because the Canadian border's closed.
Yep. Right.
I'll guarantee if they open that border today, tomorrow the lakes up there will be full of people from Wisconsin, Minnesota, Illinois, all over the northern United States. They'd be there overnight.
It's tourism dollars for the state.
Yeah.
Leaving the state, really.
Yeah. How many people
drives right through?
Yeah. Did I talk into going up to Mille Lacs Lake? Hundreds and hundreds of people. Yeah, it was quite the spectacle for sure.
Well, and they created a nice fishery in Green Bay now.
Oh yeah.
With spotted Great Lakes muskies, which are basically the same as the Leech Lake, Mississippi strain. The big spotted muskies that's always been with pike. They spawn twice, and basically because they did that, they've made a lot of Wisconsin musky fishermen happy, a lot of northern Illinois and Indiana and so forth musky fishermen happy.
Yep.
But they've practically killed the musky tourism in northwestern Wisconsin, which built the schools here.
Yeah, that's
an interesting
because
point.
I took a picture of this quote when I was reading through it.
A guy in Chicago can load up his boat, pack some food, gas up his boat in Illinois, gas up his truck in Illinois, drive to Green Bay, fish all weekend, after having bought his license one time, not spend a single dime in Wisconsin.
Sure.
And catch big muskies and go back home. And
bigger than anywhere in the state.
He made a trip half as far as he used to make coming up here.
Sure. Right.
To catch giant fish. So
I get it.
Yeah.
It's you know, it's a simple matter of genetics and doing the right thing. And the DNR has steadfastly refused to do anything to create a trophy fishery.
And this is
the fisheries they got.
Right.
Just keep going downhill.
Right. It's only going to get harder, especially how good musky fishermen are getting right now.
Oh yeah.
You have to be good. I mean, to really.
The knowledge out there available,
insane. Absolutely
from video to online, is just astronomical.
You got people that don't know whether they're afoot or horseback going where there are big muskies because it's where big muskies are being caught.
And then catch them.
And they catch them.
Tomorrow, the next day, they're gone. They go.
Yep. That's why we're shooting this video right now. Just have some awareness about this topic matter of. I mean, our fisheries could get back to where they were. I mean, probably not where it used to be, but pretty dang good.
It could get pretty dang good.
It could get better if they put the right fish in.
Yep.
But they won't do it. They've put their feet in concrete and poured it deep.
Well, we're definitely really encouraged by what's happened on lakes like the Madison chain, where they have been willing to, to do some sampling of leech fish, and it's done obviously well.
One of the reasons is because it wasn't native musky lake.
Sure. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's probably the big thing.
That was their mantra. They don't care what gets stocked in lakes that weren't original musky lakes.
Understand. So what does all this mean now to us? What can we do? What would be a plan of attack to you know, to get this thing rolling in some shape or form. I don't know.
You could come up with $10 million, but it wouldn't mean a thing if the DNR doesn't want to cooperate.
Right.
That's the bottom line. They can put their feet in concrete, and if they get some new people in at the head of the DNR that want to listen, and tourism people would understand really what's going on and get excited, and we had a little bit of that back in 2006-07 when we started this project, but not enough people understood what it would benefit from. And you got so many business people here that they buy a business up here, they expect to be here 5 years, sell the thing, make a profit, and go retire in Florida. But they don't care.
Right.
They don't care about the long-term fishery. They want to know, what can you do for me right now?
Sure.
But musky fishermen, they care, especially you young guys.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you're just a twinkling.
We don't have to go any farther.
We know how the story goes.
I'm almost 79 years old, so it isn't going to do me any good. If 2006 they would have done it, I'd be reaping the benefits right now. But it's not going to help me. But guys like you, you're going to spend the rest of your life around this area. You want help. Right. And as far as the money, DNR budgets are tight. So what? Musky fishermen will come up with the money if you say go. I'll guarantee it.
Yep, I would believe that as well.
I could probably raise $500,000 in 6 months without any problem.
So how many of you folks out there have cabins in northern Wisconsin that you bought however many years ago?
Sure.
And, you know, what are your guys' experiences? Comment below. Have you seen musky fishing increase, decrease? What you know? We do know that musky stocking efforts in general,
it has been cut for sure.
Yeah, understandably too. I mean, things are different now, and times are tighter and whatnot. But musky fishermen are more than willing to contribute to something like this.
I can buy an $80,000 boat and a $60,000 truck to pull it with. He can cough up a few bucks to stock fish that grow big fast.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing.
And they'd do it in a heartbeat.
Just musky fishing as a community right now. It's pretty awesome that we can all be together in, you know, a bubble on Facebook, Instagram, all this. There's no reason we can't work all together and formulate a plan that hopefully, you know, people listen to, and we could really make some top-tier musky waters. They're here. They've been proven.
Yeah, we're fortunate enough nowadays to have the social platforms, whether YouTube and whatever, to be able to bring this to everyone just like that. And, you know, obviously people are going to want to work at this, you know, obviously.
If we'd had this in 2006, 2007, it probably would have been a different ballgame.
Sure. Awareness. How many people you can get it to aware to the situation.
But you got to get the business community excited about it.
Sure.
Well, man, I don't know how we'd come up with the numbers but I mean, just the tourism dollars that go to musky destination waters. I mean, it's a real thing.
It's immense.
It's a real thing.
People don't realize how much musky fishermen spend on musky fishing every year. It's crazy.
No, they have no idea.
No, it's crazy.
Like business people don't really know the dollar counts.
We're talking millions of dollars.
Yep. It's hopefully, you know, just gather up a big enough voice and hopefully get some things rolling here. We're going to leave the Wisconsin.
And just to give you an idea about the economic impact, if I can just stick this in real quick. Lake Chautauqua, New York's 13,000 acres. It's one lake. It generated, 50 years ago, it generated $1.8 million a year in tourism for musky fishing.
Just that one lake.
Yeah, 50 years ago.
Like 50 years ago. Think of how much cash that is
now. That's
one
lake, 13,000 acre lake. We've got the 15,000 acre chippewa floyds. We've got 5,000 acre grindstone. We've got 5,500 acre Coudray. We've got 3,500 acre round lake. I mean, we got the water.
What did Mille Lacs generate?
No.
That'd be an interesting.
When that place is rolling, holy cow! There's a lot of people coming to visit.
Zillions.
Right, zillions. That's a good number.
I rest my case.
Yep. Thank you, Larry. We're gonna leave the Wisconsin Restoration Project. What Larry and Bob Benson wrote up.
And the Johnson brothers.
The Johnson brothers. Okay, right on.
No longer with us. Rest in peace, guys.
Absolutely. We're gonna leave that in a little PDF on our website. We're gonna leave a link to that. We just got to scan it first.
Right, yeah. It's a few pages long, so we'll work on this.
It is such a cool read. It shows, you know, what you guys did with Wisconsin, with just Muskies Inc. in general, like the amount of 50 inches caught in Minnesota in 1990, end of 1990s, and showed the numbers of Wisconsin. It's just such a cool read up to show.
It's eye-opening.
Yeah, what Leech Lake fish could, just Mississippi strain muskies could do for you know,
and they don't
economy.
have to put them in every
Right.
lake.
No,
It's just
no,
a few.
just a couple.
Just a small
sprinkling.
sampling.
Yep. Just
Got to do enough to spread the pressure out, though.
Yep. That's for sure. once word gets out, there'll be hundreds of outputs, but
Yeah.
it's not a bad thing. It's just dollars.
I'm certain we will continue this topic as
Yep.
we move along here. It's definitely something that needs to be discussed and
Trust, yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
I'm excited about it. This really has put a fire in my belly. I really want something to happen. When Lee and I get together, that's really all I talk about.
Well, it's so cool to see the results of what that has done on, you know, now our home waters for me. So very interesting. Well, we are currently melting here right now. It is amazingly hot, basically the first day of fall. We want to thank Larry for his time, input, information, all the above. And of course, we'll leave those links like Robbie said. And that'll conclude this episode of the Legends of Musky Fishing. And maybe next time we can catch one of these things.
That'd sure be fun.
It sure be fun. The season's
Third time's
dwindling.
a charm.
Third time, for sure.
If you guys could go down and hit the subscribe button if you'd like to catch more of this content, we would really appreciate it. Thanks for everyone for all your support. We couldn't do this channel without you guys, so thank you so much for that. We will catch you guys on the next video.
Thank you.